What are we going to talk today? I have a short resume of what we are going to talk today. It's the Nefs structure, dynamism of the Nefs. One of the most important components of this Nefs structure, the spiritual heart. We are going to talk about discrete consciousness states, hal, and some preliminary ideas about psychotherapy. And I'll also make some book recommendations. I am working 20 years now for a new model of psychology. Why do we have a need to have a new model of psychology? This is one of the topics we are going to also try to understand. I will expose you the exponential paradox. We are going to see soon what it is, and the dilemma of psyche. Before we approach these themes, I would like to share some of my important events in my life, turning points of my life. How I came to the idea to make such a work. How did I come to the idea of being a psychiatrist? I will try to expose you with some words. Constitutionally, I have a very pathological psychological constitution. In my family, we have anxieties. My mother was depressive. I have a very neurotic family. I was raised in very neurotic family conditions. Some tragic events happened in my family. So sometimes I describe myself in the middle of 4 circles. One circle is anxiety. Second circle is depression. The third circle is obsession. And the fourth circle is neurosis. And I am in the middle of these 4 circles. It's hard to have such a life. I struggled during my life against these psychological pathologies. And actually, I have never thought to be a psychiatrist. But I was so neurotic. At the end, when I was studying in Lausanne, the secondary school, high school, I studied in Lausanne in Switzerland. I went to a psychiatrist. Didn't mean much to me because the trust is very important, you know, by sharing yourself. The trust is very important. Then we came to Turkey. I finished my medical school. We came to Turkey. I had military service in Ankara. In Ankara, I had probably this was the 4th psychiatrist that I have consulted. This was one of the turning points of my life. Being accepted by someone, you know, being accepted, this empathy, this it's more than empathy. It's just this togetherness. The quality of this togetherness is something very important. I shared my life, my misery, and with such a humanity, such a affection, sometimes my psychiatrist, I can share his name, late Professor Engin Geçtan, his eyes went wet sometimes. And I thought after this first meeting, I thought that this person would be the right person for me. And I continued my psychotherapy, coupled with group therapy. Group therapy is also very important, coupled with group therapy. And then my military service time was over. We wanted to return back to Europe. And Professor Geçtan told me, do you think sometimes to be a psychiatrist? I said, me? With all my pathologies, being a psychiatrist. But actually, I went back to Europe. I wanted to be a cardiologist in Germany. I stayed 2 years in cardiology, and I was intern in Germany. Then we returned to Switzerland. My wife is Swiss. We went to Switzerland, and Switzerland, I only had an internship in psychiatry. So it was like an obligation to go in psychiatry, and I started my internship, and I liked, and I tried to realize to be a therapist like Professor Geçtan was, and I felt some very strange things during the meeting with my patients. The time became, the 50 minutes became very relative. Sometimes it was happening so fast. I said to myself, what's happening to time during this deep human meeting with someone? What do I see in the human in front of me? At this time, I didn't know about the states, Hal, but surely I was experiencing some spiritual states in this togetherness. So after a while, I tried to understand also spiritually what's going on during this psychotherapy, psychiatrist and patient togetherness. What's going on there? A friend of mine at the university, at the hospital I was working, he told, man, it's time for you to make meditation. So during this time, my affection was I went to Burghölz. I had won the internship in Burghölz in Zurich, and I looked for Sufis in Zurich. I couldn't find Sufis because there was a lady in Zurich, but I couldn't find her. And I went to a Zen center, and then started in my life a long, about 10 to 15 years meditation time. During the meditation, I had very strange feelings, lightness. Imagine someone obsessive with obsessive thinking, who can control during meditation his thoughts. That was a huge experience for me. I meditated 4 hours a day. I made retreats in woods and in mountains, everything. And then when this time was over in Switzerland, we came to Turkey. But before I went to Turkey, I probably would be a Buddhist monk in front of you now, if something very special didn't happen. I looked in the eyes of the leading monks at the center where I was training. I said to myself, you're a psychiatrist. Look in the eyes of these people. You are going to be one of these. Look in the eyes of these people. What are you? What do you see? You know what I see, what I saw? A deep longing, brothers. A deep longing. I still remember this longing, hasret. So I said to myself, okay, you tried this way, the meditation way, what about your own tradition? What about Sufism? And then dreams play a very important role in my life. When we settled down in southern Turkey, where we are now, I had a house in a tangerine garden, and I was practicing my profession in Bodrum. The center where I was together with in France, they sent a monk to convince me to come back again to their traditional Buddhist way. This monk had a dream. In his dream, he was walking in the tangerine garden, and he engaged himself in a kind of tunnel in his dream. This tunnel ended with an iron door. The iron door, he couldn't open the iron door. He looked through the keyhole of the iron door. This is exactly what he told me. He said, Mustafa, I see a light. I have never seen such a light before, but I cannot go through. Probably you guessed what he saw was Nur. And the message was for me. This way of meditation brings you until a certain level, but then you cannot go further. I tried to understand, to tell him about this, the meaning of this dream. He said, "Oh no, I don't believe you. In the house you were, I was sleeping. Probably there were jinns." He told me. He went back to France, but my conviction was clear. I said, "Okay, it's over with meditation." So I engaged myself in tasawwuf to understand what the human being is. I had a bit an inflated ego when I came to Turkey. I have read Jung, Freud from original works, Heidegger. There is in Zurich a lot of psychoanalytical schools, Daseinsanalyse, existential analysis, Binswanger, Medar-Bos, Jung, everything. You know, I had a very inflated ego. I thought I knew everything. Then something very something very funny happened. I was walking in the land in Bodrum. I met an old peasant who were there. He said to me, "Oh, my son, welcome. Are you going to stay here?" I said, "Yes, I'm going to stay here." "What is your profession?" I said, "I'm a doctor." "Oh," he said, "Wonderful. We need doctors." "What kind of doctor you are?" I said, "Well, I'm a psychiatrist." "Oh," he said, "this is exactly the right place to be here, because Bodrum is like Saint-Tropez. It's a very crazy place." But then I thought, if this guy should ask me, "My son, I am very ignorant. Can you please tell me what the psyche means? You say you are a psychiatrist. What is the psyche?" I was playing with my thoughts. I realized that I couldn't answer this question. I couldn't give him, and I would tell him, "Oh, psychiatry after Freud is an iceberg." He would look me curiously. From point of view of Jung, it's a sphere. It's like a ball. I realized that something essential was lacking. In our profession, we have no answer. Someone like me, like so with inflated ego and with so much knowledge, I cannot give the answer. So what the psyche is the first paradox of our profession. we have no answer for the psyche. The second paradox of our profession is what I call the exponential paradox. The more psychiatrists, the more psychologists we are, the more human psyche, human psychology get worse. This is a catastrophic situation. I recommend you the book Generation Me of Jean Twenge. She is very courageous. In this book, she describes some statistics about, for example, depression levels were 2%, 2 to 4% in the 19s. Now we have 40% of depression. The other pathologies, anxiety, and all the addictions, they will increase. Although we have all this knowledge, all these psychological schools, maybe 400 psychotherapeutical schools, but we have no solution. We have no preventive medicine. We have no effective therapy. We use medication more and more, but the general situation is worse. This is the paradox. I call this exponential paradox. Exponential paradox, the more we know, the worse human psyche goes. So, the second book, one of the books of Jean Twenge are very interesting books. The last book she wrote about the internet generation, so also very important book. There we have also very alarming statistics, and especially since 2012. 2012 is the date where the smartphones became popular. The statistics every psychiatrist, every psychologist should read these what's going on. So I started to if I go back to this time to understand, I can give no answer for psyche, but for Nefs, I should give an answer. What is Nefs? So I started with consciousness studies, readings of Mevlana Jalaleddin Rumi, Ibn Arabi, and published about for 20 years ago, my first book, inspired from the verses of Mevlana Jalaleddin Rumi. He says, "Oh, you human being, your structure is 900 levels." I called this book 900 katlı insan, means human being with 900 levels, inspired from the verses of Mevlana Jalaleddin Rumi. This is also like an autobiography. I explained in this book my own problems, my own life adventure. Then about 6 years later, I published a more differentiated book, but also systematic explanation of pathology from the Nefs Psikolojisi, from the point of view of Nefs Psychology. This is the second book. And now, about 7 years, I am trying to understand the Nefs from the Ishari Tawil, especially from Abdurrezzaq Kashani, Ibn Ajibe. I think the new psychology should be a proven psychology, delilli psychology, proven psychology. We have suffered a lot from these speculations about human being. You know, psychology was born during the Enlightenment period as a reaction during this crisis of European adventure. Psychology was taught to take the place of religion, and we psychiatrists, psychologists, are supposed to be the priest of this pseudo religion, which is psychology. Very important book that I can recommend you to read is where I cannot find here. Ellenberger's the Discovery of Unconscious. This is a very important book to see exactly this. The Discovery of the Unconscious is a very important book to understand how psychology was born as a reaction, and this is psychology became a speculative science. So with this table, we are trying to have a proven psychology. If you look at the structural models of the European psychology, first we have the Freudian iceberg model. It's like a tragedy to describe a human being like an iceberg. Then a more differentiated model is Carl Gustav Jung's sphere model. We have a self, nucleus of the self. We have consciousness here, ego, shadow. This is about all in European endeavor to have a structural model of psyche. There is one exception to this. This is the Italian psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, Roberto Assagioli. He proposed an egg model. Assagioli's egg model is so far interesting. In this model, we have a lower unconscious, higher unconscious, the self, field of consciousness, and this is very important, we have the soul. Assagioli's diagram is all, that's all. It's not more differentiated than this. We tried to, I took as a schema Assagioli's egg, and we developed our own model that I'm going to show you. So what are we? What the Qur'an Azimüşşan says, what are we? We start some surahs of the Holy Quran are very important to understand the human being. One of the surahs is Surah Teen, Teen. Estağfirullah. وَالتِّينِ الزَّيْتُونِ وَتُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَٰذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينِ لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. We have created the man in best shape and best condition, and then descended to lower levels. What is this Ahseni Takwim creation? The four human creational perfection components are: first, we carry the spirit of our Lord, of Rabbul Alameen, as said, Nefahtu fihi min ruhi. That means, you know, the meaning, we oversee the importance of the meaning. We are beings not from this universe, not from this world, not from this universe. We are being extra universal beings. We have the honor to carry the spirit of our God, of our Lord. The second sheref, honor of we humans, is to be vicegerents of God, of Rabbul Alamin. Fil arda halifeten, we are halife. The third honor we have, all the creational codes are given to human beings. Esma kullaha, the beautiful names of God, they are in number, indefinite number. It's not 99. 99 is in the Hadith Sharif, in the Hadith, it's mentioned 99, but we know that they are innumerable. So we have all the creational codes of Rabbul Alamin. This is the fourth our honor. And the fourth honor is that all humanity comes from Hakikati Muhammadiyah, from the, in a Hadith Sharif, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, the first creating thing was my nur. Some people call this Duratul Bayzat, the white pearl. And all the rest of the creation comes from this white pearl, from this Nur Muhammad. So all human beings, these are the part of the great Muhammadan human family. These are four honors. So Ahseni Takvim creation is this. Summe radednahu esfele safilin. Then this perfect being, this created being, descends the levels down. Imagine in a building, like in a building, for entrance of a building. We start our lives at the entrance of a building, and this is Nefs Emmare. We know the multi-leveled structure from, for example, the different maqams that are mentioned in the Holy Quran. Emare, Lewame, Mulhime, Mutmainne. So they are, these are the stations, the maqams. We go down all the maqams down, and we are at the Nefs Emmare. Lower than Nefs Emmare, we have our inner, the Esfele Safilin, our inner health. The lower unconscious in this diagram of Asagioli, lower unconscious, Esfele Safilin. And Esfele Safilin, what we have our shadows. You understood that we carry shadows in us. So Nefs Emmare is, so what happens if we are there, if we stay at the Nefs Emmare? This is very important to understand. In this multi-level structure, we understood that we are Nefs is a bipolar structure. There is Ahseni Takvim part of the Nefs, Esfele Safilin part. We live in this, like a building in this structure. In this structure, in some approaches, this structure is described as a country. For example, a very important book that I advise you to read, if you find it in English or in, I don't know, in Arabic, Tedbiratul Ilahiyya of Ibn Arabi. This is difficult to read, but you have an incredible description of all the subtleties of the nefs, especially of the spiritual heart. So, if I show you from our diagram that we have worked the structure. So this is the diagram you worked. This is the ahseni takvim creation. لَقَتَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. We descend, and we start our life. Every human being starts his life at the Nefs Emmare, the entrance of this building. Lower than this, in the Nefs Emmare, we have the shadows. In Qur'an Kareem, the shadows are mentioned, for example, as belhum adal, lower than the animals, or emwatun gayra ahyain, dead people who never tasted life. This is the lower unconscious, and we have in this lower unconscious all the negative potentials we carry in us. Nefs Emmare, now this is very important to with my broken English, excuse me. I studied in French, in German, my English is very broken, but I thank you for your patience. Nefs Emmare is a dangerous place to stay, because if we stay at the Nefs Emmare, after a while, we have a, at the Surah Beled is mentioned existential anxiety. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ أَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Kebet, the meaning of the kebet, you know what kebet is? Ismail Hakkı Bursevi's Ruhul Beyan is a great tafsir. Kebet is if you place something in a container, because of the creational potential, this thing doesn't suit anymore in this container. It feels a constriction. This is exactly the anxiety, the existential anxiety. You know who felt this existential anxiety? It's very curious. Salvador Dali. Look at this picture. What do you see? Exactly the human being who tries to get out of this here symbolized as an egg. So kebet is very important to understand. The Surah Beled is one of the most important surahs in the Holy Quran to understand this structure. Very important. So we have the if we understand another point, very important point, if we go further to understand why we cannot stay stable in a level of nefs, why we can understand over the Surah Rahman, kullu yawmin huwa fi shan. Kullu yawmin huwa fi shan. Every day there is a new creation. This is Ibn Arabi's teaching. And how to say this? Creation in every moment. All the being is renewed every moment, because we carry the spirit of our Lord. So we cannot stay there. If we practice minimal Islamic rituals, we stay here, but we don't ascend. This is very important. We don't ascend. We stay here, but we don't ascend. If we break the rules, Islamic rules, this is the Habiyeh. heva, haviye. This is like we fell in the deeper levels if we break. So we should ascend, and the ascending is only possible if there is Ahlaki Muhammediye, Islamic ethics, and infak, isar, existential style. Further in the ayat-i kerime, in Beled, it's mentioned, the ayah says, you know what Akabe is? Akabe is the steep slope in the mountains. Exactly this. If we have to ascend in this structure to have a relief, go for to have more less anxiety, more freedom. You have to ascend. And then in the surah, in the same surah, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةُ, and then Rabbul Alemin recites all the conditions that we should practice. فَكُّ رَبَ اَوْ إِطْعَامٌ ذِي يَوْمٍ فِي مَسْغَبَةٍ يَتِيمٍ ذَا مَقْرَبَةٍ اَوْ مِسْكِينٍ ذَا مَتْرَبَةٍ. That means, brothers and sisters, if we can have no psychological relief, long-lasting psychological healment without changing this egoistic lifestyle, every psychological institution should work with a charity society together under the same roof. I don't mean sadaqah. Please read again Qur'an Kareem. The messages we receive, constantly we receive. If you want to lose your, for example, الذين ينفقون في الليل والنهار سرا وعلانية فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Night and day, openly and closely, those who, in fact means giving, sharing something more than sadaqah. You should make an offer of yourself. In fact, is this. In fact, is a serious way of giving. You all know probably what that means. Half means anxiety. The increase of anxiety since 1955 to 1990 by teenagers is 85%. In this book that I told you before. So, without this active participation, changing our lifestyle, we can have, after Quran, after Hadith Sharif, we can have that does not mean I prescribe medication, I make psychotherapy, I make group therapy. That means that we do not practice all these known therapeutical approaches. But it's not enough. Without ahlak hamidiyeh and ahlak infak isar, we can have no long-lasting psychological amelioration. This is the key. This is the most important. So, Nefs psychology is, for example, represented in Holland, and then in Amsterdam, France are practicing with the charity society together. They have their own charity society. In medical psychosocial approach, at the social part, when the healing when the remission is attained, people are encouraged to go to Africa. People are encouraged to actively participate close to them in any charity activities. Imagine what the world would be. We are an army of psychologists and psychiatrists. We are talking and talking and talking and talking. No result, with no result. Imagine what the world would be if this practice is generalized. We have, I don't think the religious part. It's considered put it away. But look pragmatically. We will reach our therapeutical goals. I'm a psychiatrist. I work with very hard depressions, with the psychosis. I know I don't say it's a miraculous remedy, but it would bring a lot to our understanding of, to our therapeutical tools. Probably it's the most important therapeutical tool to make this leap, in psychology. So you saw these are the stations, Emare, Levame, and between these stations, these circles, smaller circles, are the states. The states are very important because these states, if we go in this structure higher, these states are have a healing effect on us. The difference between state and feeling is feeling comes and goes, is passageway. State has a long-lasting activity. For example, state of Reja. Reja, you know, is hope. Normally, sometimes we have hope, sometimes we are depressed. Reja, in this way, in this Hal science, Reja is long-lasting. We can call it basic existential hope, Reja. We have Itminan, trust, basic existential trust. Surur, joy, basic existential joy. For example, in Tasawwuf, they say a Tasawwufi joy, a Sufi joy. Sufi joy is always so being happy. It's a state. It's a state. Sometimes a station, but shouldn't be a station. It's a part of Sufi. Or very important, amazement, hayret, wonder. These are all states that we don't know enough the importance of these states, because these states have a healing effect on us. One of the major transpersonal psychologists, Ken Wilber, in the introduction to a book, says we have a human genome project. Human genome project. We know it. We know all the chromosomes and what's going on. We should have a human state project, he says. I'm going to explain you soon where these states come from, but the first thing that we should understand, these states, these Rahmani states, are not Kesbi, not through my own efforts. They are Wahbi. Wahbi means accorded by our Rabbul Alameen if we fulfill the conditions. This is very important. If the Ahlak-ı Hamidiyye and the in fact Isar existence conditions are fulfilled, then the gate opens. What gate? The heart gate opens. The heart gate opens, and these halls, Rabbul Alemin, accords us these halls. We wrote in this diagram, Nefs Mutmainne here, as you see. And it's like, you see, like an objective's diaphragm. And through this gate, this Nefs Mutmainne, the spiritual heart, there is a flow of nur and also these states. This is exactly what in Tedbirat al-Ilahiyya Ibn Arabi explains. This is exactly what Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi in his 24,000 verses explains the importance of the spiritual heart. I can recommend you by some books about the spiritual heart, but the only person I know who understood in the Western psychology what these states are, Charles Sturt. Charles Sturt wrote a book in the 70s, States of Consciousness. And in his book, he drew a diagram. You see here major subsystems of consciousness and the principal information of flow routes. You have extroception, interoception, input processing, awareness, subconscious, emotions, goes through, motor output, memory, etc. But this latent functions, this is very important. These, I don't know other people in the Western psychology, in consciousness research, Charles Sturt, the only one he understood this latent function. What happens if this latent function enters in function? These are the latent function states. This is my own drawing. If these latent function states enter in action, we have a small ascension in this level. Small ascension. Again, I repeat, it's very important to understand. Here we saw these latent functions. These hal, reja, itminan, umid, surur, etc., which are accorded by Rabbul Alemin. If they have accorded, we have these, they are integrated to the structure, these states. We have a small ascension here. This is exactly what happens when we, in the structure, I try to draw you, this is these states. Ibn Arabi in Futuhat Mekkiye says each of these ascensions corresponds to one of the Asma al-Husna. We know from Hadith Sharif that there are 70,000 veils of darkness and nur between human being and Allah. 70,000 veils. Yeah, these are these veils. These 70,000 is, of course, a symbolical number. It doesn't mean 70,000, but a lot of another ayah of the Quran Kareem who gives about this multi-level structure of the nefs is leterkebunne tabakın an tabakın. We have create you level after level. This is also very important. We have, of course, Ken Wilber says we should have a human state project, right? We should have, but they don't have the source of the states. We have a lot of works which explain these sources. For example, Shahabeddin Suhreverdi's Avariful Me'arif. There is a lot of these states explained. Avariful Me'arif of Shahabeddin Suhreverdi. Ismail Ankarawi, Minhajul Fukara, gives hundreds of these states. Herevi, Haji Abdullah al-Ansari al-Herevi, hundreds of states are mentioned here. Okay, why are these states so important? Now, let's speak some words about the spiritual heart. If we ascend, ascending is a very, descent and ascending is very important in Sufism. The ascending is one, we call it devir. Devir. It's even in the Sema Mukabelesi, in the Sema Mukabelesi, we have as a descending and ascending. So if we ascend, we reach clearer existential levels of our existence. But for this, we have to go through this Nefs Emmare and the other. Through. Getting through for us is falah. Falah is getting through. Getting through on an upper level. You know, once upon a time, I was very close to existential psychotherapists. And Søren Kierkegaard was for us like a, how do you call it, one of our ideals. So you know what Søren Kierkegaard says in his book? He has two wonderful, pathetic books. One of the books is the anxiety, and the other one is the sickness who brings to death. He describes his tragedy as, I couldn't make this existential leap, Søren Kierkegaard. This is exactly the existential leap he couldn't make. So if we get higher and higher ascent, this ascent is called tekamül, terakki, to the higher levels of the nefs, it becomes clearer. Muhakkiki Tirmizi gives a wonderful explanation for this. He says, at the meaning of the heart, Tirmizi, the meaning of the heart, he says, sadr is like the white of the eye. Colored part is kalp, the fuat, the hole in the middle is fuat, and there is a nur flowing from there. It is lüb, like exactly the heart. White part sadr. So we are at the sadr region of the nefs. We come close to the spiritual heart. Then we have kalp, the colored part. Then we have the fuat, is the hole in the middle, and lüb is the nur flowing from there. So this is very important to understand, that primary human pleasure center is not brain stem centers like nucleus caudate, putamen, etc. The primary human pleasure center is our spiritual heart. How could you explain me people? I know people who are serving now in Africa in very, very, very difficult conditions. They dwell the operations for cataract operations and other charity activity. What kind of pleasure they have to go Africa and to serve like this? What kind of pleasure? This is not dopamine. Because at the centers of the brain centers, we have dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphin, endocannabinoid, etc. What kind of pleasure? There is a pleasure. Sometimes as a joke, I say there is noramine. At the spiritual heart, we receive noramine. Of course, there is no noramine. That's just a joke, I say. But it's very important. That means we should consider pathology from the center of our being. Because what did I do until now? I encourage hedonism. Go play tennis and this and this, for people. And they stagnated. I was a good psychiatrist. They liked me very much. But if you look the long effect of my therapies, it doesn't work. So this is very important. Primary human pleasure center is the spiritual heart. The more we understand the states, the more we understand what kind of relief comes there. For example, hayret, amazement is so important. Why? Ask me why. Because there is a hadith sharif. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, religion is hayret. Religion is wonder. Imagine now, we killed wonder, amazement, with what? With screen addiction. Young people, they don't wonder anymore. They don't have amazement anymore. If you understand this fine structure of our spiritual heart, we also we can have answers for this screen addiction, virtual addiction. Because if you ask a psychiatrist, what is the evil? Why does it hurt? Why? I know in Twenge's book we have a lot of statistics. Depression increases, anxiety. About why? We don't know. Why? Because these people are not in hunger. These people live in peace. Why? Because the spiritual heart is blocked. This is so important. And if you look, I have counted 156 ayahs which say about the spiritual heart. Don't skew your spiritual heart. في قلوبهم زيغ, skew. قلوبنا غلف, shell. You have your spiritual shell. أكنة, قلوبهم أكنة, in a whale. قلوبهم في غمرة, يطبع الله على قلوب الذين, sealed. ران على قلوبهم, rusted. So we Nefs psychologists, I don't like anymore the term psychology, because psychology is not anymore enough to understand the human being. We should call it ilm al-nefs, the science of nefs. Because it's over, psyche is over. Psyche doesn't know this structure, multi-level nefs structure. Psyche doesn't know the spiritual heart. Psyche doesn't know these states. They don't know anything about these things. So this is the reason why maybe the name should be changed. The spiritual heart, second very important function is it's our essential information processing center. Our intellectual rational activity is in our mind. In our mind, we make operations with what? With preloaded information. If this preloaded information is wrong, then we have wrong consequences. So what happens there? This is so important. In this Tadbirat al-Ilahiyya, we have a wonderful explanation for this. If we are close to the spiritual heart, if we have made our information processing in our mind, Rabbul Alameen sends the missing half of it, the missing half. And so the gestalt is closed. You know what closing of the gestalt in our terminology is? Tevfik. We understand from this multi-level structure of the Nefs also epistemology. Epistemology, multi-level, existential epistemology of the Nefs. Because the epistemology, the science of Nefs Muhima is not the science of the Mutmainne, Razia, etc. So if from this model, we can have a new, brand new psychology. But all what I explain you here is valueless without affirmation of the Holy Quran. And this is what I'm working in 7 years. I'm not able to make such a thing. It has been done. Abdurrazak Kashani especially is a wonderful Ishari theory. I'm just only making psychological explanation of what has been said. I have, inshallah, I have a couple more years to live, but in 1 year, I hope I can finish this table. And then we have a proven psychology. For us, the proof is Kitab. So we come now to psychotherapy. Dear friends, ilm al-yaqeen is to know something. Getting close through science. What we have done here is to understand the structure of the Nefs. Very primitive model. This is ilm al-yaqeen. First of all, we should understand the structure of this Nefs. We can, or if we are in a country, we are traveling in a country, without a map, we cannot travel in a country. First of all, Tedbiratul ilahiye fi memleketil insaniye. Ibn Arabi says, Tedbiratul ilahiye fi memleketil insaniye. First of all, we have to have a map. Without map, if they ask you what is state, you should answer. If they ask you what is the spiritual heart, you should answer. But from the ayahs of Quran, not from our imagination. So ilm al-yaqeen is the first part of this approach. For ilm al-yaqeen, we need the structure, a structural and dynamic model of the Nefs. Then comes ayn al-yaqeen. Ayn al-yaqeen, men arafa nefsehu faqad arafa rabbehu. What does it mean? If you know your Nefs, you know your Rabb. And this is, I know we have some reaction about this Western approaches of psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, learn analysis, etc. But acceptable for us Muslims, learn analysis is absolutely important. This learn analysis should go parallel to dream analysis, with dream analysis. This is what we are doing now, 20 years. And more than 20 people have achieved, and they have their certificate. Learn analysis lasts about 3 to 4 years. And they will give a certificate. It's very important. Without ayn al-yaqeen, we cannot understand all what I tell you. You should witness in your dreams. When I say about esfele safilin, when I talk about nur, this is very abstract things. A lady, I give you an example of a dream. A lady came to me for psychotherapy. She had a very sad togetherness with her husband. They had no relation anymore in the 3 or 4 years. And she wanted divorce, but there was a little girl. She couldn't divorce because of the girl. And I generally don't make advices, religious advices in my therapies, but I say, and she fell in love with someone, And she asked me, well, can I make such a thing? Just a natural relation. I said, well, I don't know. I cannot advise you this because she was not receptive for religious telqin. So I said, the quality of your dreams would suffer if you do this. After a while, she came to me with a red face. She said, doctor, I had a dream. A very strange dream. What happened in your dream? I was in a country like Dubai, a southern country. There was all two level buildings, white buildings. And between these buildings, I saw land without construction. Doctor, she said, there was a strange light was coming out from this land. I never saw such a light before. Exactly like my monk's dream. The monk couldn't reach. She could see the light coming out of this land. And then I wondered. I saw this light. This was so beautiful. I wondered, but there was a house beneath. I went to this house. I saw that it was a hammam, common bath. And there were old ladies washing there. Each time I tell about this dream, I have I cry. She said, what's happening here in this hammam? One of the old ladies said, my daughter, to see the nur that you saw, we have to clean ourselves here. Should I prove the nur after such a dream to that person? So, Ayn al-Yaqin is extremely important. Dream work is extremely important. I know the Hadith Sharif about don't tell your dreams, and all the Hadith Sharif I know. I worked. Dream. This is another. We can talk about this. Don't forget. 3 things give shifa, health: Qur'an Azimüşşan, dua, and hakim. We should be hakims. We are not anyone. If people tell our dreams to us, we are not anyone. So, the third part of it, after the second year of learn analysis, people under supervision, they practice psychotherapy, dream analysis, etc. And this is Haqq al-Yaqin, because you can never have the maturity only with observing on yourself. You should observe in the other people also what's going on in this country of the Nefs. So work, I'm trying to realize as fundamental institution to make this work more organized. Until now, we work some in amateur way, but we are working for an institute of foundation institute of Nefs science. Inshallah, with your duas, we'll realize this. I thank you for your patience and for your patience for my broken English. I thank you.
mashallah, very inspirational talk, Sidna. I think we were all gripped and glued to the screen, hoping you wouldn't stop. Mashallah, yani it's wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. And I would like to learn more about what you're doing in Istanbul with this institute, inshallah. Our intellectual interests seem to overlap with Jung, Wilber, and a few others that you mentioned, inshallah. What we're going to do now is, inshallah, we're going to open up the floor to Q&A only from the general audience. So the CMC students, if you can hold back a little bit, take questions for about 10-15 minutes from the general audience. I believe Sayyid Jamaluddin may have already a list of some of these questions, and then if there are other questions, you can just raise your hand by raising your virtual hand up, and then we can then choose you, inshallah. So Sayyid Jamaluddin, do we have any questions?
Yes, Dr. Sami, Jazakallah khairan. And Jazakallah khairan, Hojam, for a great lecture. We are all very appreciative of your time. Barakallahu fikum. May Allah grant you tawfiq in establishing your institute, inshallah. So, Sister Habiba is or we should just take the general public. So I'll take our
general questions
afterwards.
Yeah.
So Brother Ahmed Baraka is asking, Assalamu alaikum, how do you envision, Dr. Merter, your model helping to deal with pathological conditions like depression, anxiety, etc., in a clinical setting? And what role does medical intervention, medication play in that?
We should go after. I worked many years in psychiatric institutions as a psychiatrist in difficult conditions. In a psychiatric institution, we have the classical approach, bio-psychosocial approach, with all the ways we know. We practice this. We should, as soon as possible, when the remission comes, encourage the person to make these meaningful activities. But for this, we should have a structure. It should be structured. This is the reason why I said the charity organization should be under the same roof. I know in a very severe depression, people, they don't have the energy. Some psychotic people, they don't have. But in the revision, when the revision comes, this is possible. So systematic integration, which should change our way of thinking. I can give you an example. A therapy-resistant lady, neurotic, depressions, etc., in Holland, went to Zanzibar in remission, but the remission was not full. Went to Zanzibar and visited and served in an orphanage. The people who saw her in Holland and then in Zanzibar, there was a significant difference in Zanzibar. What happened? Probably we should give her chronically antidepressive medication and our classical psychotherapeutic approaches, and she would after a while she would have again a crisis for long lasting. In a remission phase, for long lasting, we should have this approach. Is that an answer, a valuable answer?
Barakallahu feekum, Hojam. That was a great answer. Thank you so much. So next question is from Mai, and the question is, if your books are being translated to English.
They are translated, but the fine reduction has not been yet done. I have sent my books, I can send to anyone, but the fine reduction has not been yet done. I'm waiting that someone, you know.
Inshallah, we will benefit from them when they're released, inshallah, Hojam. And then we have a question from Mai as well. How can we explain from an Islamic perspective a depressed person taking medication and their physical and mental condition improving within weeks? How does that translate to the heart and the soul? What happens to them in terms of states?
This is a very hard question. I had once a 70-year-old man, depressive. I prescribed him medication, and then I had to travel to America. I didn't see him for about 2 months. When I came back, he visited me again. He said, how are you? I said, well, doctor, he said, I feel what funny things are happening in me. What kind of funny things? He said, well, actually, you are very polite. You have been very polite with me. You didn't never confront me with my harshness and with my character. But I became soft, he said. Before, when dogs were welling out of my house, I throw something on the dogs. But now I go down, I give them food. What's happening to me? Merhame, compassion. With antidepressive medication, I have observed compassion, the birth of a compassion in this person. Okay, what should we, okay, then we take medication, we don't need, but it doesn't last. You cannot give someone his lifelong medication. This is for a while, it helps, and then you have to stop the medication. And probably, this is also, we know this, you know, through also all the medication we prescribe, the depressions increase. But there are very interesting things happening, passagery things happening with antidepressant medication I have observed. My approach, my actual approach, I prescribe as few as possible antidepressant medication for a short while of time. When the worst phases of depression is overcome, then I have the other approach. As okay.
Jazakallah khair Hujjan for your nasiha. I really appreciate it. That is actually the way we should work, right, Hujjan? I mean, if you look at how Western psychiatry is built upon, they will give you prescriptions for life, subhanAllah. So yeah, thank you so much for shedding light of your great works. And then we have from S. Khan. I don't know your name, S. Khan, but it says S. Khan. So please forgive me. But how do we work with the Nefs model with atheists and non-spiritual clients, Dr. Merter?
Especially in Turkey, we have a major problem. Turkey is separated in two: faithful people and people with less faith, and there is a big tension between. So this is a very special situation about Turkey. We should approach the person after his attitude, after his worldview. I generally don't, if someone comes to me, if a religious person comes to me, of course, we talk about the Nefs, we talk about the Qur'an Azimishan, Hadiths Sharif, but if someone has a reaction, as this lady, I gave as example, the dream, I let the message come through dreams. Friends, dreams heal us. What I learned in the last 10 years. In this structure, what we call Nefs, ruled by intelligent divine laws with a self-correction potential, a semi-autonomous structure, what is called Nefs, there is a healing process if we listen to dream voice, people changes. For this, I should give you examples of dreaming, because I know it's very abstract when I say like this. And the dreams, that's another part. Dream is dalil for the person. You believe your dream, and the halts, the states you experience the dream, they are substitute for you. Abraham Maslow understand in a small book, Religions, Values, Peak Experiences. If you count this book of Abraham Maslow, he speaks about this, what I am talking to you about, these states. But this is dalil for the person. So in the dream work, someone, without me intervening religiously, through the dreams, the person has more adept, the person corrects his wrong attitudes. It's happened something if he listen to the dreams. I know it's very hard to explain this, because you have to experience yourself. Otherwise, it's hard to explain. I am always at the background now. We call the murabbi. We call murabbi is the teacher. There is a teacher in us. Ibn Arabi calls this Rabbul Has, a teacher in us. Rabbul Alameen, through the dreams, heals us if you listen to the dreams. I know it's very abstract, but the only answer I can give is this.
Barakallahu feekum. Very great answer. Jazakallah khairan, Hojam. And then we have, I don't know, Dr. Samir, how many more questions? There's a lot of questions from the general public.
Just one more question from the general public, and then we'll go to the students, inshallah.
All right. So Sister Zainab is asking, could Dr. Merter talk a little bit more about the psyche nafs of children and youth from Islamic perspective, and the use of Nefs Psikolojisi for child and youth psychotherapists? What is very important to know about children and adolescents if one is a Muslim child and youth psychotherapist?
Of course, this is very different and very hard to approach topics, child psychology and Nefs psychology, our approach. Of course, the child is not the child. We have a whole system in front of us. Father, mother, and the siblings, we have a whole system. So I don't work with children, but I have one of my students is a child psychiatrist. She works with all the family, and if necessary, with father and mother individually, and also in family therapy all together. If father and mother changes, if there is a significant change in the most problematic person in the family, if there is a change, this change has influence on the child. This is all what I can say. I don't have much experience in child. My student, maybe she can say more.
Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Merter, for those great advice and nasiha. And thank you, Dr. Samir, for letting us asking questions. So yes, Dr. Samir, there are some more questions, but we'll...
Yes, so Dr. Merter, can you please stay on with us, inshallah? I'm going to kindly ask you to stay on. I'm going to also kindly ask our students to stay on. And I'm going to request the guests, the public guests, to kindly leave. Thank you for attending. Thank you for coming. Please look out for our website, the CMC website, for more talks and more announcements, inshallah. Thank you very much. Okay, all right. So for the CMC students, Habiba, do you want to go first? And then Zulkaida. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallahu khairan, Dr. Merter. Vielen, vielen Dank, damit wir ein bisschen was auf Deutsch gequatscht haben und keiner uns verstanden hat.
Sie waren meine Rettung. Sie wären meine Rettung gewesen, ja.
Ein Schweizerdeutsch ein bisschen. I have some questions. So one thing was I was wondering if you shared or if you published any books in German. I would be highly interested. The second question is about, you spoke about witnessing and experiencing and openly like about the path of tasawwuf. So I would be wondering, in your personal opinion, is that a prerequisite to be part of a tariqah, or because this knowledge is not a heady book knowledge, it's an experiencing knowledge. So is that part of the like the guide to have an own spiritual guide? Like, and that's, I think it's always a personal opinion of being in the field of Islamic psychology. And the last one, you spoke a lot about dreams. How do you differ if these dreams are psychological or spiritual dreams, or is there any interference? Thank you.
The first question is silence. The truth is, I should say the truth. If you are engaged in a way of ashq, tariqah is ashq. And if you have a connection with a murshid kamil, of course, this is the best thing what you can, as a psychiatrist, psychologist, experience. Because you are under control. One of the biggest dangers for us is our narcissism. Therapeutical narcissism is very dangerous. After a while, the therapeutical narcissism brings, it's shirk ulama. So if you have a connection to a tariqah, it's like a life insurance. But only 6% of people have such an honor for different reasons. But 6% of people. So my students, some of them are part of the tariqah, some not. It's not a precondition to be in a tariqah. But if someone says, I would like to engage in a tariqah, I say we encourage. And I know this is the only answer I can give you. I know the answer is a lot of people who are not in tariqah, they could feel maybe not very, I don't know. This is the answer I can give, not more than this. And the second question is, tariqah is you probably are curious if I am part of a tariqah. I am part of a tariqah, yes. I am part of a tariqah. I'm a very bad student, very bad. I am not a sheikh or something like that. Very, very bad student, really. Last of the holes, but I am connected. The second question, what was it again?
If you have books in German published?
Yes. Unfortunately, I have no books in German.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Someone wanted to translate the Nefs Psikolojisi to German, but we didn't go further.
and then there was the question about the dreams, because you spoke about dreams.
Yes, this is very important. Our dream analysis goes first objectively. Imagine a scenery, a theater. In the scenery, a play is going on. We are at the balcony. We are looking. Look, my friend, at the scene, you are with all the what's going on there. There are other figures in the scene. This is the objective. What's going on in the scene? What's going on? What is the message we receive from that? This is the objective analysis of the dream. Then comes the subjective analysis. All these persons in your dream, man, woman, doesn't change. Are you, your different personalities? This is the subjective part of the dream. Some dreams are very spiritual. These spiritual dreams, if the person is connected to a tariqa, we ask them, we say, you should have permission of your sheikh to tell us your dreams, to tell me your dreams. If the sheikh gives permission, we can try to make dream interpretations. Adab says, good ethics, Sufi ethics says, if this dream should belong to the sheikh, better not make any interpretation. Don't tell me this, tell this either to your sheikh. So, objective analysis, subjective analysis, and spiritual analysis in this way. Okay?
Zulkaida?
Assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khair, Dr. Merter. So I had two questions as well. The first question was, I wanted to hear your thoughts on whether, because you mentioned, service, and you gave a couple of examples of, people going to Africa and doing service and things like this. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on whether service, or let's say akhlaq alone, can be helpful. And because we also have in Islam the twin concept of both belief and doing good, right? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu wa amilus salihat. So there's both the belief and the good action. And so I was wondering then how it's kind of related back to Habiba's question of like, how do you even engage with people who doesn't have one, let's say, one wing of the bird in a way, in terms of belief. Do you then, as what is your responsibility as someone who's trying to help with the healing, to kind of gear the person towards that half that they're lacking, or do you just, is it not our responsibility to do that?
I didn't understand you very clearly. Excuse me.
It was really long. I'm sorry. I guess rephrase of the question is, what are your views on whether service or alone can be helpful in healing someone if they don't have belief? And is it our responsibility as healers to instill belief in people?
Yes. We encourage people. First of all, if someone comes with depression, with anxiety to me, I make the regular work of every psychiatrist. With medication, psychotherapy, if they needed group therapy, we work. After a while, if you look, if the person has inclination to make such a thing, you can give an example of someone who had activity somewhere and had a profit, his pathology were better. You just taste if the person has motivation for such a thing. If the person has no motivation for any reason, narcissism or I don't know, any reason, you don't insist. But don't forget, we are two in the therapy. There is also the Murabbi, we call him, dream master. Dream. Rabbul Alameen is also making a therapy. So, in a dream, maybe, look, our approach is we go into therapy before we make wudu. We pray the night before, the days before for the person. We have a connection with a rabita, with the person before the tests. We pray, we make prayers. We go with wudu in the therapy. It's all a different approach. And you ask, you make a prayer, you say, oh my Rabbil Alameen, let this person give a dream. Maybe it could be better. Maybe she has a dream. And the motivation comes. If not, okay, we have done everything. But we know it's much more effective, this approach.
So actually, my second question is very much related to that, which is on this dream. So I was wondering, the heavy emphasis on dreams, at least from my very limited knowledge, seem to be often referenced back to, Sheikh Al-Akbar Ibn Arabi. And I was wondering what your thoughts are in terms of why dreams weren't as much emphasized from the early kind of historical narrative. And for example, in Tasawwuf, dhikr is very much obviously present and emphasized, whereas dream interpretation is often kind of discussed from storytelling, but not really like heavily at least from my experience, heavily kind of emphasized. So I was wondering what your thoughts in that kind of shift is, or if you have any thoughts.
I didn't understand again. I am not very
we have to make this quick because we have Nader and Sayyid Jamal want to ask a question.
It's fine. Let's just drop this question, brother Nader.
Okay, just very quickly, I imagine dreams have always been absolutely essential and central to the Sufi tradition. So anyway, we can discuss this at a later point, inshallah. Nader and then Sayyid Jamal ad-Din, and then we'll have to leave it at that, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Merter, for amazing talk. I just had a quick question about something you mentioned about the semi-autonomous structure of the self, that the self is semi-autonomous, and that you mentioned that the self has a healing. But I was also wanted to get your ideas about the relational element to healing. When there is a relational exchange that takes place therapeutically, according to your model, how would you describe that process, and what in what way does the healing take place through your model in the therapeutic relationship?
Yes, first of all, the safe correctional, safe autonomous, semi-autonomous and safe correctional potential is like the body. If you have a wound, if you have a fracture, it heals. We receive ayahs, ishare manası, signs of God. Senurihim ayatina fil afaki ve fi enfusihim. The working, the godly irshad system, the Rahmani irshad system sends us constantly signs. We have to make a little shift to after we receive these signs, we have to make a little shift and change our attitude. In this way, we are semi-autonomous. The irade, my irade is Rabbul Alameen decided that I have a will. Otherwise, we should be malaike. We are not malaike. So the system works through the signs. These signs comes from fi afaki and fi enfusihim. And the signs, which we work a lot, is these dream signs. Dreams are signs in a sense. I think this is the first part of the question. The second part, the relation, this is very important to understand in Sufism. there is a, have you ever heard about the Sufi turning dervishes in Konya, Mevlana? In Konya, they are at the 17th of December, there is a ceremony. And this, in the ceremony, you have dervishes. This is, you see this? Yes, the dervishes are turning in Konya. This is a very important, this choreography is Surah-i Beled. I can explain all this choreography from Surah-i Beled. But this part of the ceremony, the first part, before the dervishes start to turn, they make an encounter with the sheikh or with themselves. They put their hands like this, they look here under the eyes, and they bow. This is the meeting of two spirits, Jan, Ruh. We are Ruh, Meal, Bedan, Ruh, Meal, body creatures. So if I have this feeling in me that I have a Hazreti Insan before me, if my heart mirror is purified, mine is not, probably yours is probably more purified, then the person sees in your heart his spirit, his Jan, his Ruh. The person comes and tells about his life, about all these mistakes and guilts and everything. Our attitude to this we learned from our sheikhs. The person who comes to a sheikh admires the sheikh. There is a high degree of admiration. Hayranlık. If it goes further, love. You know why? His pure mirror of heart reflects your Jan. At least you have access to your pureness. This we try. We can never be like a sheikh because it's another maqam, another mertebe. But at least I try. I go with wudu to therapy. I am respectful. I try I pray innerly. And the person, you see the shadows. You could ask me to say, if you see really negative parts of the person, really very bad, okay, don't insist on them. Look the good part of it. This is what the sheikhs make. The worst person goes before a sheikh with all the failures and everything what they imagine. When he comes out, he changes because he finds himself. So this is the model. How much we have success is another story. But we learn another thing from this. We have to purify as therapists ourselves constantly so that what I tell you could be possible. This is very important. Purifying must be constant. The purifying goes, of course, in a tariqa, the best way. But if you are not in a tariqa, you are in this 6% of it, so at least try with your own efforts to purify yourself. That's all what I can. Was it an answer for you?
Beautiful answer. Jazakallah khair, Doctor. Allah bless you.
One final question, inshallah. Sayyid Jamaluddin.
Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Sabir. Jazakallah khairan, Hojam. It was a great lecture with you. May we be honored to listen to you more often, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum, Hojam. My question was regarding, because you spoke about the tension in Turkey between the seculars and the religious, right? And we noticed that due to the history, right? And we have the same tensions in other parts of the world as well, like including non-Muslim countries. Like I live in Sweden. A lot of our classmates here are from different, non-Muslim secular countries. How can we work with applying Islamic psychology without getting problems within our own, legislation bodies of psychiatry? How do you manage in Turkey? Because I feel like in Turkey you have this tension. Are you open with saying I'm practicing some form of Islamically integrated psychiatry or psychotherapy? What type of nasiha do you have to give to us who are working perhaps in countries where these type of methods are not heavily acceptable? Barakallahu fikum, Hocam.
First of all, we should be, with our existence, we should be an example. Ahlak-ı Hamidiye, Ahlak-ı Muhammediye. We should, with all look, Islam is not a rituals. It's not only rituals. Islam is an existential way. How you walk, how you talk to people, how you even with munafiqin, even with the enemies of Islam. You know, a lot of examples, people who are converted or change their mind about us. This is very hard, but this is what we should do. The situation in Turkey, I am considered by Turkish psychiatrists, the majority of Turkish psychiatrists, as a dangerous person because I talk about Sufism, about religion. I had a great struggle in the 25 years. I had a lot of negative experiences also, what they have done. And not only to me, also to my family, even to my family. I'm just like their, you know, the paradigm, this paradigm doesn't, the scientific materialism paradigm, psychology is the tarika of this scientific materialism paradigm, and the psychiatrists are the priests of this paradigm. So this paradigm doesn't accept outlanders in their. We will always be repelled from this paradigm. So I think the situation in Sweden. I know the situation in Switzerland. I even consider less worse than in Turkey, because all the negative things that happened in the last 20 years. The thing I would like to talk about is one of the topics that I want to talk. I consider a lot of Islamic colleagues living with a persona. Persona is a role. And the persona is the role we carry, is very, very heavy burden we carry. For example, during this learn analysis, we also realize group therapy. Do you have group therapy experiences at all? Do you have group therapy, Jamal? Group therapy experience?
Yes, Hocam, I have group therapy experiences.
And you have profited from the group therapy experience?
Yes, generally, if it's a good group dynamic, I have. Yeah.
Group dynamics. Okay. So we soften in the group therapy, and then, you know, I cannot say more. I hope, if we can explain the structure, once Dalai Lama said a word. He said, if Buddhism enters America, it would be through psychology. This is Dalai Lama's words. If Islam, the Nefs structure is explained in a soft way without making afraid people. Islam could be the gate for Islam, psychology could be the gate for Islam to reach people. This is a so fine structure, so wonderful structure, it's a wonderful explanation of the human being. That's what I can say.
Thank you very much.
I understand sometimes. Was it an answer to your question?
Yes, Hojam, it was a great answer. You know, just the group dynamics and doing soft dawah. It's, yeah, mashallah. Barakallah fikum, Hojam.
Mashallah, once again, a very inspirational talk, Sidna. We do, inshallah, hope to have you as a guest again.
I am at your...
We hope to see you. I'll be in Istanbul in the summer, so I hope to be able to see you and meet you in person, inshallah.
Write me 2 months before, because I spent the summers in Switzerland. I would like to also see you, inshallah. If I know 2 months before, maybe we can arrange something, a meeting.
Well, I might be also in Eranos. I might have to talk about my book chapter on Jung and the Red Book. So,
okay.
So maybe we'll meet in Switzerland, inshallah.
Oh, inshallah. You have knowledge about Jung.
Yes, I've written on Islam and Jung, inshallah. I'll share the material with you at some point.
Have you read probably the Red Book?
Yes.
You could talk us about the Red Book. This is it. Inshallah.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor.
I thank you for your.
Inshallah. And I want to thank Sayyid Jamal ad-Din and everyone for your assistance and your presence. اللهم أذن الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأذن الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you.
Cambridge Muslim College, training the next generation of Muslim thinkers.